tropics stay active in the Atlantic.
Especially in the central and western Atlantic and even parts of the eastern seaboard.
As flooding becomes more common, is it time for you to get flood insurance?
So many houses are near little creeks, little canals.
And the cool sights you can watch in the night sky over the coming days.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And happy Friday, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm WJLA Senior Meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. It grew from 30 acres to more than 1,000 in just a matter of hours. The so-called Canyon Fire joins the Gifford Fire, which is burning just to the northwest. It's the state's largest wildfire of the year, already burning nearly 100,000 acres. High heat and dry conditions are fueling both fires. Reed Binion has more.
Yet another wildfire has erupted in Southern California. The Canyon Fire started Thursday afternoon, initially estimated at 30 acres in size, but it spread quickly and was at more than 1,000 acres within 2 hours. Evacuations were ordered, and by Thursday evening, the flames had scorched close to 5,000 acres. The blaze, which started in Ventura County and rapidly moved into Los Angeles County, came as firefighters already had their hands more than full with the nearby Gifford Fire, for which new evacuation orders and warnings were issued Thursday. It has burned nearly 100,000 acres and was just 15% contained as of Thursday night.
Our firefighters out there are doing a good job, but the terrain is steep.
The helicopters are a great tool for the firefighting that we're doing out here. They can work deeper into the canyons.
Meanwhile, in Colorado, an otherworldly haze enveloping the landscape as the Lee Fire rages near the town of Meeker. The blaze has already burned tens of thousands of acres, and firefighters are also contending with the Elk Fire nearby. All this coming as Hawaii observes the somber second anniversary of the deadly fires on Maui. Friday marks 2 years since the blazes killed more than 100 people and caused $6 billion in damages. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
And those wildfires are creating poor air quality in Southern California, but it's been fires in Canada causing smoky skies across much of the nation. A check this morning shows air quality is improving in much of the Northeast as well as the Great Lakes. Moderate air now stretches from across much of the eastern half of the country. Only the Milwaukee and Cleveland areas are currently under unhealthy air for sensitive groups. Emily Gracie spoke to an air quality meteorologist to learn how long the effects will last and how the weather can be impacted by the smoke.
The wildfire smoke that's been impacting us here in the Midwest and off to the Northeast, that's mainly been coming from a high pressure system that sat over us in the Midwest for a couple days. So basically, those northwesterly winds are just funneling all that smoke towards us. The wildfires are still burning up in Canada, but the winds have shifted more southerly, southeasterly. They'll be more so southwesterly, I think, later into this weekend. So the smoke is slowly starting to filter out and just kind of dispersing and being blown back in towards Canada. Those wildfires are still burning up there, although we have been seeing some rain set up in that area, eventually coming this weekend and maybe into early next week. So hopefully that'll provide some relief.
Does that kind of wash out the atmosphere? Does it help kind of clear things out?
We kind of like to say it like that. Like you said, clean out the atmosphere. But we have seen, too, recently this past summer, it kind of brings the particulates down, the wildfire smoke down from the upper atmosphere. Although it's not, obviously the atmosphere is more wet and moist at that time, so smoke doesn't really have much to kind of drift around. It's heavier. But we have been seeing on our monitors kind of region-wide with the rain, that wildfire smoke still kind of hanging around and sometimes increasing in some areas.
To help us understand how this is rated and how we can understand what the threat is.
The air quality index, just the AQI, there are 6 kind of categories. There's green, which is good. There's moderate, which is yellow. Unhealthy for sensitive groups, that's the orange AQI kind of color. There's unhealthy, that's red. Very unhealthy, that's purple. And then hazardous is maroon. So there's different categories or ratings for each of those. Basically, nationwide for air quality meteorologists, we use the orange AQI, the unhealthy for sensitive groups range, as kind of the threshold for issuing an air quality advisory, air quality alert.
We know how weather affects wildfire smoke. Does wildfire smoke affect weather? Does it keep afternoon temperatures a little lower?
So it does kind of act like a pseudo cloud and can blanket us and kind of keep the temperatures cooler in the afternoon.
Then there's the record-breaking heat across the Southwest. Phoenix yesterday hit 118 degrees, making it the hottest August day on record. The morning low of 94 degrees was also record-breaking. Today, the mercury is expected to reach about 113, and that's why portions of the Southwest are under an extreme heat warning. In all, more than 50 million people face heat alerts across the nation, including a large swath from Dallas north to Minneapolis. Tracking the tropics today. Tropical storm Dexter dissipated overnight, but the National Hurricane Center is still monitoring two areas of interest. One over the central tropical Atlantic has the best chance of becoming a storm over the next week, although it went from 60% to 50% this morning. Most models have it staying out to sea and not threatening land. There's that second little wave off the southeastern coast of the United States, but that looks pretty paltry now as well. August is when Atlantic storms typically start to form. Meteorologist Riley Blackwell explains why.
So we are in August, and it's really going to become a time to start keeping an eye on anything tropical that forms. Of course, our climatological peak of the hurricane season is the early middle part of September, but right now is usually when things start to get a little active, especially in the central and western Atlantic, and even parts of the eastern seaboard, even parts of the Gulf can be fairly active in terms of a named tropical system. Now, in terms of hurricanes, usually we see them in the central Atlantic, butting up against the Caribbean Sea and curving up along the eastern seaboard. We also have a small hotspot in parts of the Gulf. Now, one thing to keep an eye on, the Climate Prediction Center is keeping a very close eye on the central Atlantic, giving this dark red area a greater than 40% chance of tropical cyclone development. This will be from August 13th through August 19th. So granted, while the season so far has been relatively quiet and mainly nothing but fish storms, as we transition throughout August and closer to September, every system will bear watching. Back to you.
Meantime, there's a threat for severe thunderstorms today and tonight in the upper Midwest. The Storm Prediction Center issued a level 2 out of 5 alert for the Twin Cities, along with most of Minnesota. Damaging winds, large hail, and even a couple of tornadoes are possible later today. Attention sky watchers, the next several nights will bring some pretty cool sights to the night sky. Meteorologist Thomas Dubois tells us what to look for.
Hey there, everyone. I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Thomas Dubois. It is Thursday, August 7th, 2025. Just wanted to put a few things on your radar to be on the lookout for over the next several nights. The first thing is tomorrow night and very early Saturday morning. That's when we'll see our next full moon. Being the month of August, it is the sturgeon moon. It has Native American origins with the name, and it simply comes from the sturgeon fish that were plentiful this time of the year, mainly in the Great Lakes region. The next full moon, that'll be September 7th, and that is known as the harvest moon. Now, early next week will be the peak of the Perseid meteor shower. That's going to be August 12th and 13th. The best viewing will be during the pre-dawn hours. Make sure that you're in the darkest location possible and give your eyes about 20 to 30 minutes to adjust for peak viewing. Unfortunately, there will be a little bit more light pollution, and a lot of that actually comes from the moon being pretty full, still around 84% being a waning gibbous. However, with the chance of seeing 50 to 100 meteors per hour during the peak, hopefully that means that there's a chance that you'll be able to see some shooting across the early morning sky before sunrise. On August 12th, not only could you see some meteors shooting across the sky, but there's also going to be a very close planetary alignment between Jupiter and Venus. All you have to do is look to the eastern sky.
And speaking of the cosmos, NASA released a photo of a newly discovered comet. It's the sphere-like object in the center as captured by the Hubble Space Telescope. It's called 31 Atlas and is traveling at about 130,000 miles per hour. No one really knows where it came from, but it's thought to have originated somewhere in our Milky Way galaxy. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, this summer's weather has caused catastrophic rain and flooding across the country. We'll look at what this means for flood insurance coverage.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Munn. Let's get a look at the Northeast for your Friday. We're looking great across much of the region. You notice some scattered showers, some downpours in some spots. You head towards interior New England. Overall, though, partly to mostly sunny skies throughout much of the region. For the day on Saturday, starting off the weekend, great, lots of sunshine. High pressure will be in control across the region. And then the temperatures will start to go up as we head through the second half of the weekend. But the high temperatures today will top out in the low and middle 80s.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jubali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Friday afternoon should brighten up quite a bit, seeing more sunshine. Stray shower at worst here, but most of us, or most areas, will stay dry. And that'll be the case again on Saturday to have a little bit more sunshine around. And temperatures being a little bit warmer too. We'll see those numbers stepping up just a little bit day by day. Low to mid 80s near the coast and into the mountains in the 70s. Just add about 2 or 3 degrees to that. You have Saturday's high temperature forecast.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. We're still expecting above average conditions, hot and humid to continue in the western portion of our area, middle and upper 90s there. Now closer to the east coast, temperatures will remain seasonable to slightly below average in the mid and upper 80s. This is because we have a stationary front in the northern Florida area, and also we're expecting an area of low pressure to bring lots of rain and storms to the coast of the Carolinas and Georgia. This also will keep an unsettled pattern throughout the Florida Peninsula as well.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Let's go birding this morning, starting with the pileated woodpecker, one of the largest woodpeckers in North America. American oyster catchers are found along many coastal habitats, and indeed, they feed on oysters and other shellfish. This is a gray catbird enjoying some grape jelly left for it on a lemon, while ruby-throated hummingbirds are known for their speed and agility in flight.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Well, a recent trip to Martha's Vineyard turned into a medical nightmare when a 2-month-old baby became seriously ill from a tick bite. John Perrick has more on the rare illness and looks at how warming temperatures are leading to more reports of tick-borne illnesses.
She's slowly coming down from seizure medication, which is great.
5-week-old Lily is slowly recovering from a danger her parents could barely see, let alone knew nothing about.
Never heard of the Powassan, ever in my entire life.
Lily was just born on June 30th and may be the youngest person ever infected with Powassan virus. Her family believes the tick bite happened after a walk near the family's home on the vineyard.
I found this tiny, the teeniest one on her ankle. I picked it off. Like a week later, she started getting a fever of 102. I said, I'm taking her right in.
The virus can infect a person within 15 minutes of a bite. In this case, Lily's parents say she experienced brain swelling and needed help breathing.
Unfortunately, it doesn't have specific therapies. So beyond supportive care, there's no treatment.
Doctors say tick prevention is key by wearing clothing treated with chemicals and using repellent with DEET.
The longer a tick attaches to you, the greater the chance it will spit enough pathogens into you to cause disease.
More testing will confirm if Lily was infected with Powassan. For her parents, her health is the main concern. They're hoping to take her home soon, but unsure how the disease will impact her future.
Is she going to be able to do like the normal things that we would normally not even think about it?
She's a fighter, though. She's a very strong kid. She's fighting for it. And we're right here.
Well, this summer's weather has caused catastrophic rain and flooding across the country. And as these rain events become more dangerous and more frequent, you may be wondering whether you should get some flood insurance. Well, Jen Sullivan looks at why we're seeing more rainfall and what homeowners should do to protect themselves.
Heavy rains turning this road into a river, stranding buses and emergency vehicles in several inches of water. This happened last month in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. This is the result of the Green Brook River overflowing. And these heavy rainfall events are becoming stronger and happening more frequently all over the country. A recent study from the nonprofit group Climate Central found hourly rainfall rates have grown heavier in nearly 90% of large U.S. cities since 1970.
That is the most terrifying type of damage. It's the one I fear the most.
Holden Lewis with the NerdWallet says if your home floods and you don't have flood insurance, you could be stuck paying out of pocket to fix the damage because standard home insurance does not cover flooding.
Even a minor flood can be very expensive.
Experts say these rain events can be worse in the summer when the jet stream shifts further north and there's less of a temperature difference between the equator and the Earth's poles. These storms can become slower. When storms slow, rain falls faster than the ground can absorb it or infrastructure can drain it, which is how this happened in Chicago last month, where a stalled storm system dropped as much as 5 inches of rain in just 90 minutes.
So many houses are near little creeks, little canals that are placid 99.99% of the time. But in a really, really heavy rainstorm, they can flood, and they can flood really quickly.
Lewis recommends everyone should have flood insurance. According to NerdWallet, the average flood insurance cost in the U.S. is around $899 a year. But if you don't have it and your home floods, NerdWallet recommends people should look at FEMA grants, local government assistance, and nonprofit help.
Well, it's a different story in Utah, where things have been extremely dry this summer. Paul Nelson tells us about the state's overall water level picture and what has hydrologists most concerned.
There are 3 reservoirs in Utah that are very low, which has Utah Snow Survey Supervisor Jordan Clayton especially worried.
That's the Upper Sevier, the Beaver, and the Sand Pitch. All have diminished supplies down to, again, that 20 to 30% level, which is quite concerning.
But the bigger concern is the soil moisture level in Utah's mountains. Clayton says it's really bad this year.
When we combine all the sensors that we have in our mountains and at our snow-tell sites, we see that we are in record low territory right now for Utah's mountains.
When the soil is this dry, a lot of the snowpack that falls over the winter will just be absorbed back into the mountain when the spring runoff happens. And Clayton says we've seen bad years like this before.
The headwaters area acted like a sponge. A lot of the moisture that came out of the snowpack wound up staying in the headwaters, and our runoff into our reservoirs, which is why I mentioned all this, was really bad.
That is a really big concern. We are in a very similar situation we were in 2020, where we had a record heat and dry summer with very little precipitation.
Division of Water Resources Director Candace Hassenjaeger says it's far too soon to panic, and there is time to turn this problem around if we have a wet fall or early winter. Still, she says people do need to think about cutting back on their water use now.
The wheat harvest is winding down in northern Michigan, and this year's crop has been affected by moisture and heat. But what has this meant for the yield and the quality? Ethan Foreman went to a local farm to find out.
Paul Wagner has worked in the agriculture business for a long time. Wheat is one of the many crops he grows. Wagner says that there is decreased quality in his wheat this year due to a lot of moisture in northern Michigan last fall and over the winter.
Well, we're just about done with harvest on the wheat crop. Yields seem to be pretty good overall on our wheat, but the quality of the wheat was not very good this year.
The early summer heat has sped things up at his farm.
Generally, the first part of August, I would say we're maybe a touch ahead of schedule this year on harvest. Things seem to progress pretty quick with the warm temperatures we had. So we're to the early edge of what we would normally see for wheat harvest in our area.
Areas further downstate have seen less in terms of rainfall this year and has led to better yield.
The wheat crop has actually turned out to be really a pretty good wheat crop in terms of overall yield. And for the most part, quality has been actually pretty good. We did have some frequent rainfall during the harvest period that the more times your wheat gets rained on, the quality does start to degrade. But overall, it's mostly good yield and in good condition.
The USDA says we may come close to our record yield if conditions don't change drastically.
USDA had us projected at an 87 bushel yield, which is just 2 bushels short of our record of 89.
Oh, wow.
And so as we get a little closer into September, we will find out what our state average yield was. But I feel like the USDA number is probably going to be pretty close.
Well, time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over Rhode Island's Lake Mishnak.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Look at this, 102 in Wichita today, but 77 in Bismarck. We have some scattered thunderstorms kind of working their way in from the north as we go through later today with that stationary front. As we continue into your Saturday, that rain kind of drifts a little bit more towards Iowa and Wisconsin, and it slowly moves a little bit more to the southeast on Sunday for us, but staying hot and humid for most of the Midwest.
Well, a good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off with 70s and low 80s. A pretty warm start to the day. The afternoon, a lot of sunshine, mainly dry weather. Of course, the heat, mid-upper 90s to low 100s across the region. Any rain chances slight near the Gulf Coast with the sea breeze. And then Saturday, a lot of sunshine, a lot of heat, and we have a slight rain chance Texas Panhandle and near the Gulf.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. It is just plain hot out west, especially in the deserts, going again for well into the triple digits in the Valley of the Sun, 110 out of Vegas, and that heat starts to move up the I-5 corridor today. It gets very warm all the way into Portland and Seattle this weekend. Thunderstorms continuing to push over the plains and into the Dakotas, and we'll have that high fire danger around Utah. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, this week on our podcast, Off the Radar, you'll hear from a meteorologist that has done on-set weather forecasting for productions like Jurassic World and The Walking Dead. Here's a preview of that episode.
In a world where blockbuster movies dominate the summer, millions are mesmerized by Hollywood magic. But behind every spectacular scene, one man stands between production and disaster. When a single day costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's no room for surprises. Lightning can shut down the set in seconds. High winds turn props into deadly weapons. From the set of Stranger Things to The Walking Dead, he's the meteorologist behind Jurassic World. He's the unsung hero you never knew existed when Mother Nature demands an unscheduled cameo.
You can catch our podcast Off the Radar anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. I want to tune on in. And for more great weather news and video, be sure to check us out on social media. We're on all your favorite platforms. Just search for the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on a Friday. I'm WJLA Senior Meteorologist Brian Vandegraff. Make it a great Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. We hope to see you back here on Monday. What do you need me to do?